Well, thank you, Hiro. Indeed, it's a great pleasure for me to be participating with J-VAC in developing this series of short videos where we will trace the history of management system standards, in particular ISO 9001 for quality management, but also explain a little bit about J-VAC's approach and philosophy to adding value during its management system audits. So I think if we start by looking at the background to how we got to where we are today, in my view, most of this starts in the early 1950s with the famous visits of Dr. Deming, Dr. Duran here to Japan. At that time in the Western world, much of what we now know as quality management was focused very specifically on quality control, inspection, quality assurance, very prescriptive requirements that were engineering focused for organizations, suppliers, for example, into the defense, the chemical, petrochemical, manufacturing, aerospace, nuclear kind of organizations. So they were very, very technical in their nature, and they bear very little relation to what we now see in this modern generation of management system standards. But it was in that context that ISO 9000 was first developed and published in 1987 as a standard for quality assurance, focused very heavily on prescriptive requirements for procedures to apply within an organization, that the organization then had to follow those procedures and demonstrate that they were following those procedures by generating records. That very prescriptive approach at the time was okay, but over the last 25 years, more and more organizations in the service sector, organizations in software, organizations in the social arena are implementing management system standards. And so as the application of the standards has evolved, so has the way in which the standards have written evolved. From that very prescriptive, procedure, record heavy kind of standard in the 1980s to what we have today, which is very much process focused, results oriented, that will really help organizations to be better in achieving their day-to-day performance and long-term performance results. So over the course of these next videos, we'll be talking about things like the quality management principles on which ISO 9000 was based. How do they relate back to the original ideas of the great gurus like Crosby, like Deming, like Duran, Feigenbaum, Ishikawa, Professor Kume and many others, and how have they been applied over the course of the years to bring us to where we are now. In ISO 9000 family of standards, we have the requirement standard, ISO 9001 for certification purposes. That specifies the minimum that an organization has to do, the minimum, in order to ensure confidence in the products and services that it provides to its customers. But that's not always enough, so we have a series of guidance standards, the most familiar of which is the ISO 9004. Guidelines to achieve sustained success, to be able to understand the requirements of customers and other interested parties, to be able to accept and implement methodologies that will guarantee long-term survival and success of the organization, not just by meeting customer requirements, but by taking into consideration sustainability aspects, making sure that the organization is acting in a socially responsible way, in a way that is consistent with environmental conservation, so that we have something to hand over to our children and our children's children in the years to come. So I look forward to recording these videos, and I hope they will be useful to you.